Welcome back to another episode of Opalwave MTG, a channel dedicated to exploring power levels in EDH. I'm your host Jacob, and today we're going to be going over the battle version of Queen Kayla Bin-Kroog, which is an upgraded version from the skirmish tier. If you want to check that video out, I'll have that posted here. And the glory version of this deck, which is our CDH version, should be posted within the next couple of days, and that'll also be linked here as well. As usual, if you want to support my channel, check out my Fiverr, and be sure to check out the Discord. And with that, let's go ahead and get started. Queen Kayla Bin-Kroog has pay 4, tap her, discard all the cards in your hand. You can return a creature or artifact with mana value 1 from the cards discarded this way to the battlefield, as well as 2 and 3. So with the skirmish tier, we had a little bit of a reanimator strategy, and we're going to do that as well with this version, but we're going to make it a little bit more efficient with the cards that we're using. We've still got the Duretti Scrap Savant to help us, rummage a little bit, as well as it's got a really nice reanimate effect by sacking an artifact. And then we've got Karn the Great Creator to shut off our opponent's artifacts, and will also serve as a combo later on in the artifact section. We'll get to that. Moving on to our creatures, we've definitely upgraded the overall value, the overall power of our creatures. Got some really nice stacks pieces like the Drannith Magistrate. We've got some really great enablers like Zerta the Dawnwaker, which will make activated abilities of our creatures cost less, or our permanents cost less rather. And so our Queen Kayla Bin-Kroog is only going to cost 2 mana instead of 4 mana. So a really nice include there. We've still got pingers like the Ingenious Artillerist and the Reckless Fireweaver. And then we've added these two welders here, the Goblin Engineer and the Goblin Welder, that can sacrifice our artifacts to bring other artifacts back from our graveyard to the battlefield. So as we're churning out with cheap stuff with Kayla Bin-Kroog, we can eventually get some of the bigger stuff that we can't reanimate with Kayla Bin-Kroog with our Goblin Welder, which could be really nice. And we've still got some ways to protect Queen Kayla, like the Benevolent Bodyguard, and we've added a Mother of Runes. We've also added an Oswald that can sacrifice our artifacts and get us other more potent artifacts, combo pieces, or what have you. And we still got the Psychosis Crawler that can do a ton of damage to our opponents whenever we're discarding our cards and drawing a full new hand. In the sorceries, we've added this Avacyn's Judgment because we do have a way to make infinite mana in this deck, so we can activate Queen Kayla Bin-Kroog and pay the Magnus X cost of however big you want to once we make infinite mana. And from them, since you paid the Madness cost, it deals X damage divided as you choose among those permanents and or players instead. We've still got the Blasphemous Act and the Austere Command for board wipes. Added a Savine's Reclamation. Since we can discard it, we'll still be able to use it for its flashback cost from the graveyard, so really nice there. And we've still got the Trash for Treasure to reanimate some of our bigger stuff as well. We've also added a Vandal Blast, which, in addition to the Karn being able to shut off all artifacts, we'll be able to destroy all artifacts our opponents control with a Mycosynth Lattice, and we've got that right here. So all of the permanents on the battlefield will become artifacts, and with the Blasphemous Act we'll be able to destroy all of our opponent's artifacts, or with the Karn we can make all of our opponent's artifacts just not being able to be used. They can't be activated, so they can't activate their lands. The only thing they can really do at this point is like swing with their creatures. So it's pretty much a hard lock unless they have a way to get rid of the Karn, maybe with combat or something. Moving on to our instance, from the skirmish version, we've definitely upgraded, added a little bit more efficient removal, some cheaper removal, some better protection like the Fairies protection. We've added stuff like Wear, Tear, a Braid, really great removal spells. We've added this Fiery Temper, which has the Madness cost of 1. So when we discard it with Queen Kayla, we can pay it for 1 red mana. And we've also got this Frantic Purification, which also has the Madness of 1, and we can destroy an enchantment. So it's a little bit of extra value when we are discarding cards, so we don't lose out too much. Moving on to our artifacts. From the skirmish version, again, we've cheapened our rocks overall. We've got a lot more 2-cost ramp. Liquid Torque can also be really nice if we need to take care of any permanent and we have like an Abrade. We can turn something into an artifact and then kill it with the with the Abrade by destroying an artifact. Really nice. Then we've got more ways to untap Queen Kayla Bin-Kroog, like Magerite Stone. Halo Fountain is a really cool option in this deck. 1,000-Year Elixir. And then we've got stuff like Staff of Domination and Umbral Mantle, which can serve as outlets essentially. So we do have this Basalt Monolith. So when you have the Zerta, not only does it make our Queen Kayla the activated ability cost 2, it's also going to allow us to make infinite mana with this Basalt Monolith, since we can tap it for 3. Then we can pay 1 mana to untap it, and then we can tap it again to make 3 more mana. And from there, you're going to keep netting more and more mana until you make infinite mana. And then from there, you can either equip your Queen Kayla Bin-Kroog with an Umbral Mantle to untap her and tap her infinitely, or you can do a Staff of Domination to do her, tap and untap her infinitely. You can kill people with the Avacyn's Judgment, and if we are looping through our deck with this combo, once we're looping our deck with the Queen Kayla Bin-Kroog and infinite mana, being able to untap her and tap her, we can start looping Elixir of Immortality by shuffling our graveyard and back into our library. And from there we can win with maybe like a Pyrite Spellbomb, or we can win with a Reckless Fireweaver, constantly getting that elixir back onto the battlefield, and Genius Artillerist is also going to be able to be an outlet in this deck. So really nice combo there. And then we've added this Chromatic Ore, which can generate a ton of mana for us, and since we have ways to cheat out big fun artifacts, I figured I would throw it in. It can also serve as a little bit of card draw if we really needed to. Moving on to our enchantments, we've got the Gear Per Aether Grid, which we can still use to tap our artifacts down and start pinging the table of problem creatures, or just start dealing damage to players if we really need to. Land tax is going to be super sweet in this deck, since we do have the Scroll Rack interaction where we can get 3 lands into our hand, and then we can Scroll Rack and put those lands back into our library, and then draw a bunch of new cards. So some really nice synergy with the land tax, but also if we have Queen Kayla Bin-Kroog out, we can we're just getting more cards that we discard, so our draw is even bigger the next time around. And then we've got this Smothering Tithe to help us generate a good bit of mana as our opponents are drawing cards. Since Queen Kayla Bin-Kroog, it is a rather intense deck in terms of mana, and that's why we have a lot of rocks to help us produce a bunch of mana, and Smothering Tithe can also help us do that. And with the lands, a lot of our lands at this point are just entering untapped. Some do have the potential to enter tapped, but not too big of a deal. Stuff like Clifftop Retreat, Sundown Pass, but yeah, pretty much everything else at this point we're entering untapped can help us produce either or colors. And since it's a 2-color deck, you've got the, it's pretty easy to just kind of use basics, and we do have a lot of artifacts in this deck as well. So a lot of colorless costs, not very demanding in terms of the mana. So our mana base doesn't need to be like super crazy in order to make some really nice upgrades to the battle version of the deck. That's going to be this episode of Opal Wave MTG. Again, I'm your host Jacob. Thanks for checking out the channel, and until next time.